in driving the U.S. economy. The budget resolution authorized the expenditures by our committee from March 1st, 2025 until February 28th, 2027. We were given this allocation by the Rules Committee, who directs each committee to report an authorization resolution for a 2-year budget period. That's the end of my extensive remarks, since this is a ministerial task that will hopefully be adopted by unanimous consent. And with that, I recognize the ranking member for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the budget resolution for the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation be reported favorably.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion is agreed to. This concludes today's votes.
Okey doke.
All right, we will now move on to the hearing. Good morning. Auctioning spectrum has been one of the most successful drivers of American innovation, economic growth, and global technology leadership. Spectrum auctions have unlocked billions for the Treasury, while enabling our nation's wireless networks to deliver faster, better connectivity, fueling the rise of breakthroughs from the iPhone to generative AI. This has created millions of jobs, spurred new industries, positioned American companies at the forefront of global innovation, and most importantly, improved the lives of American consumers. The next wireless leap, whether it's driverless cars, remote surgeries, or air taxis, may be just around the corner. But whether Americans will reap the benefits and whether it will be made here or overseas depends on our will to unlock more spectrum. We stand today at a critical juncture. It's been 2 years since the FCC lost auction authority and 3 years since the last meaningful auction of spectrum valuable to American consumers. The dithering and the inaction, sadly characteristic of the prior administration, yielded nothing. Meanwhile, our spectrum innovation lags the rest of the world as China, an adversarial surveillance state, threatens to control worldwide communications networks. Thanks to this new Congress and the historic election of President Trump, we have an opportunity to build better and faster networks, to create tens of thousands of high-paying jobs, and to secure America's global technological lead. The Spectrum Pipeline Act, which Leader Thune, Senator Blackburn, and I introduced last year, would restore FCC auction authority and end our spectrum drought. Through a clear pipeline of mid-band spectrum, American companies will have the certainty they need to invest billions in their networks and lead the world in revolutionary innovation. Certain special interests, aligned with adversaries like Huawei, have falsely portrayed a spectrum pipeline as a blunt instrument to deprive the Defense Department of the spectrum it needs to engage in 21st century warfare. To the contrary, our bill ensures both consumer interests and defense capabilities are protected. The bill has a generous time frame for performing the necessary feasibility studies, so federal missions are not degraded. And it uses the existing deliberative process, which is carried out by technical experts across the federal government, including DoD, to begin auctioning a fraction of underutilized federal spectrum. But studies are not enough to spur action. We need clear goals. For many years now, U.S. government incumbents, particularly bureaucrats in the Pentagon, under the direction of General Mark Milley, have insisted that they are using every single megahertz as efficiently as possible and must maintain absolute control of their vast spectrum holdings. Look, I am more than open to compromise on what the aggregate pipeline target number should be, but 0 is objectively unreasonable. And no institution should be afforded blind deference, especially not one that can't even pass an audit, and that claimed that leaving billions in tanks and helicopters and weapons in Afghanistan was more efficient than bringing them home. But don't just take it from me. Military analysts with firsthand expertise agree that we're falling behind, both in terms of its effective usage and in the development of intellectual property and wireless capabilities. Further, the Pentagon is not the only user of the airwaves globally. Many of the bands used by DoD currently are also used commercially in countries like Taiwan and Japan and Korea. If DoD is technically unable to operate alongside wireless carriers using these bands domestically, how on earth could we expect to prevail in a Pacific conflict? It simply is not credible. There are also significant opportunity costs for our national defense in delaying spectrum auctions. A pipeline would be lucrative, raising $100 billion or more that could go directly to rebuilding our military, to funding border security, and to financing Coast Guard polar icebreakers. That's an incredibly valuable offset for the reconciliation process we're undergoing right now. But the risk of doing nothing is broader than lost revenue. We are fighting a global technology race against communist China. If we do not catch up and lead, it will be Huawei that creates the backbone of tomorrow's global communications network, through which much of the world's economic traffic, and indeed much of our own government's traffic, will flow. Chinese infiltrations, like the recent Salt Typhoon attack and the release of DeepSeek, are but a small preview of a future where Chinese equipment sets the standard and dominates global networks. Negative ripple effects cascade indefinitely from there, handicapping our efforts in other adjacent technologies like AI, quantum, and semiconductors, and threatening to make America the loser in the 21st century technology race. We cannot allow that to happen. Now is the time. Let me make a final point. The Commerce Committee, as we take up reconciliation, will move forward on spectrum. It would be an abdication of our responsibility to do anything otherwise. We must move quickly and together to preserve the Promethean flame of American technology and to bolster our national security for years to come. We must prevail in the race against China. I recognize the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.